Geico presents Our Town, Season 2, a 30-minute podcast produced by Best Bart Communications, a small but fierce client-centered marketing company powered by decades of experience and well-established business networks. Geico, 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance. Now, here's your host, Andy Ockershausen.
This is Andy Ockershausen, this is Our Town, and I have the distinct, wonderful pleasure to talk to an old friend. This is not only the busiest time of the year, but inviting her into the studio right now is like kidnapping Santa Claus at Christmas Eve. But she's here with us for Our Town. Over the past 20 years, she's grown the Cherry Blossom Festival into an internationally recognized extravaganza, generating over $100 million for Our Town. She's usually wearing pink in honor of her role as one of the most important people in the city of the spring. Please welcome Diana Mayhew, Director of Events and Downtown Bid and President of the National Cherry Blossom Festival. Diane, welcome to Our Town.
Hi, thank you. Nice to see you again.
We go back a long way. Long before there were cherry blossoms, there was you. And all the things you have done. One of the things you probably are too young to know or to remember, but WMAL and WMAL TV, we were involved in the Cherry Blossom Festival up to our necks. And a couple of the young people here were just asking me stories about what would we do. And I said, well, we used both stations. We televised the parade at Channel 7. We did a lot in radio, and our talent was always involved, Harden and Weaver and Bill Mayhugh, Tom Gager. We did shows with the Cherry Blossom Festival. But you have put the Cherry Blossom Festival on a new level, Diane. I know that because I've lived through it with you.
Oh, thank you.
But how's it been? I mean, it's just been such a great experience, and to know all about what's happened, where they came from, how they started. I mean, the Cherry Blossom story, I think, is fabulous.
Well, my background is hospitality industry here in Washington.
This is your hometown, correct?
I love Washington, D.C. I love showcasing it, and just really this National Cherry Blossom Festival had the opportunity many years ago when it was run all by volunteers just 16 years ago to really get upgraded, to have somebody to pay attention to it. And not thinking I would be sitting here, I was trying to be a proponent out there for the different groups in Washington to take it under its
well, it became bigger than anybody thought it would be, Diane, but it was real big at one time, and then it went down. I remember going to the dinners, and we would bring talent in at the expense. The president of our company then was deeply involved with the Convention and Visitors Bureau of the Board of Trade, which has since expired. But we'd bring in talent from Hollywood to participate in the festival and the parade. And then it slopped off until you brought it back.
Well, thank you. So
but you did,
I think it wasn't just me by myself. Obviously, it was a vision of several organizations in the city. And the Downtown Business Improvement District actually was the one 16 years ago who said, let's go ahead and fund an executive director for 3 years. They donated the salary of an executive director for 3 years to start it getting strong again. It was a matter, there's so many volunteers over the years that have kept this festival together back in the days that very, very strong. But if the volunteers sort of went away, if they changed, there's no consistency, and that's what makes it a little weaker than we'd like. So again, myself, and then a year and a half later, I have a teammate who's still with us today, Lillian Iverson. Basically, the two of us really worked on putting this together, and now we're a staff of 13, but lots and lots and lots of contractors, lots of volunteers, still so necessary to have lots of volunteers to do it. Your background is so important because you are a Washingtonian. You grew up in our town, and you know what it is, and you know the players and the people, and having the dots that you were able to connect is what made this festival come alive. So to me, and I'm an observer because I've been involved a long time. I've been in our town for many, many years, and I love what you've done to the festival. But you had a great background for it, correct? Oh, thank you.
Anybody can promote the Washington Dips soccer team, but you did. You did the boat for a while, you did food for a while, and you did soccer for a while, correct?
Yes.
So you had a chance to connect some dots.
That's really where I started in the hospitality world, is with the Washington Diplomats, and that's when we met.
and learn everything you know from Charlie Brotman.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I was one of Charlie's proteges, I must say, definitely.
Well, he's got so many good things, and he's wonderful. We talk all the time. He's still quite active. He lost his wife, and he moved out to somewhere in
Leisure World.
High-rise, Leisure World. But Charlie's still Charlie. He's got a million ideas. As a matter of fact, he's helping his friend to promote a fight that's coming up here in May, and a big fight, and it's I forget the guy that's producing it, but I mean a major event in May at the MGM Grand, and Charlie's back involved again. He can't stop.
Well, he's fantastic. I remember going from the diplomats to private industry when I went over to Spirit Cruise, or actually it was Washington Boat Lines. That was the Washington Boat Lines when I first went over to the boat.
They had 2 or 3 boats, did you not?
Yes. And I went to Charlie and said, okay, this is not sports. This is just regular business. How do we get some fun and excitement to happen here? How do we get media? And he sat there with his big warboard in his office. Remember that warboard?
Very well.
And said, okay, let's see. The first day of spring. Actually, now that I think about it, spring must be in my blood. But first day of spring. So he said, let's check. And so he checked the exact time of spring according to the vernal equinox. I think it was 11:33 a.m. or something. So we did like a New Year's event on the boat, and we had every single weather reporter come down, the radio, everybody to cover that event. So Charlie is hot. That's exactly right.
Well, he did the same thing for a couple of restaurants too, and his amazing the way his mind works. He's way out there. Well, you had good training, but you learned at the Spirit job too. That was some food involved with that, wasn't it?
Yes. Every job that I've had, actually, I've learned. My kids used to say to me, Mom, why do you work so many hours? As well, half the time I'm learning what I'm doing, because we're always trying to create something new. And if you're trying to be new and different, you just have to keep transforming. And so
Absolutely.
Once we start learning, and then we implement for a while and then go on to something else.
Well, you mentioned the children. That's the first time you met them. You had the kids after the dips, right?
Yes.
You've been around for a while, and you have 3 children.
I have 4.
You have 4 now?
4 and 2 grandchildren now. 2 grandbabies.
You're too young to have grandchildren.
I know. That's okay. I started when I was 12.
Janice and I have known you for so long. No way you can. You've done so much for our town. And one of the things you do, Janice walks it out, you wear pink all the time. That's so important. You make a statement when we see you. And we see you a lot around. You do a lot of things besides this event, correct? You keep a high profile.
Well, I try to stay involved in the community and give back. My favorite thing is it's mentoring. Mentoring
Absolutely.
young people to I don't give advice. I just basically share your experiences. Your mistakes are just important to share as your
You learn more from your mistakes than
That's
you do
right.
as your successes.
So I enjoy doing that. I work with the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Washington.
I knew that.
And other projects around the city.
Well, remember, we had a very active police Boys and Girls Club when we lost the police. But growing up at the Boys Club and knowing it so well and being involved, I know what you've done, and I know how important that club is. I mean, we serve a lot of kids in this city, the Boys and Girls Club. I know that.
I focus on a women's leadership board that takes a couple projects on at a time. And right now we're working on the Fearless Girls and Fearless Leaders program.
Well, we had a couple of branches that I worked with, the Richard England branch over in Benning Road. And one of the things we did with the young women in that neighborhood, and they were all African American, because that neighborhood, that's what it is, we had classes, cooking classes, for the females that would take advantage of it to learn how to cook, because most of them had grown up with fast food.
Oh, that's great.
They didn't know how to shop either. Shopping is something you got to learn to do, and you only learn it when you do it. And these kids grew up fast food, so they didn't shop. They just go in and get what they want. So the Boys and Girls Club did a great job in helping that neighborhood, and I don't know whether the program still exists or not, but you know what I mean by helping young people.
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, again, I wish sometimes I was 5 different people, so if I had to do something else, that's what I would do, help kids at a really young age understand what their career interests are and start exploring, even as young as high school, middle school, start exploring.
Never too early.
Right,
never too early.
What's out there.
I read somewhere, and I'm not sure it was in the Post, but that maybe it was in Wall Street Journal, but getting young people, particularly young females, to understand the necessity for financial information. Got to understand the value of money. A lot of young people don't have that anymore. You and I had it because we grew up in our town.
That's right.
but I can see now how important it is to understand how to handle your money. And young people got to learn that at an early age. This was somebody's idea. I hope it works because they need help. Well, this is Diana Mayhew. We're going to take a break here. It's Andy Ockershausen in our town. We'll be right back with the Cherry Blossom Festival.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, you know, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to Our Town.
This is Andy Ockershausen. This is Our Town. We're talking to Diana Mayhew, the head honcho of the National Cherry Blossom Festival. When did this start? When did the festival start? I know your career is recent, but it started a long time ago.
So I'll back up before even the festival. The trees were donated to Washington, D.C. 105 years ago by the mayor of Tokyo to Washington, D.C., and Helen Taft had a big role in that. So that was in 1912. In 1927, the first festival existed, and it started with a couple-day celebration with school children reenacting the tree planting and a couple other festivities right at the waterfront.
Well, I recall there was a lot of hostility with the Japanese at one time, and there was a reason for that. But before there was the World War II, there was the cherry blossoms and a great relationship between the two countries. And, the Japanese were very good to America, and they were certainly, the Cherry Blossom Festival was an idea of that. But they seems to me that they were smart enough to export cherry blossoms all over the country. A lot of cities have cherry blossom festivals now. Nothing to compare to yours.
Right. I think at the same time these original trees were given, also they were given to New York. So the Brooklyn Gardens also have some of the same trees.
They're later than you, though, right? Because of the weather.
Yes.
Your festival is way ahead of theirs.
Just a little bit, yes.
And in all these years of being involved, we've had the Japanese relationship continue after the war. It's like it didn't happen. I mean, they became involved with us and the National Cherry Blossom Festival.
Well, thank goodness. It's a great example of a wonderful friendship with two countries. And the Japanese government, Japanese embassy are very, very much involved and appreciative of the fact that the city celebrates that celebration. The ambassador said the other day that the National Cherry Blossom Festival is the largest U.S.-Japan celebration in the world.
Wow!
So
That's
it
incredible.
is really important. Again, the festival is first and foremost the Washington D.C. springtime celebration that makes Washington the destination to come in spring. But we always remember the roots and we celebrate the culture of Japan because that's where it all started.
Well, in addition to the cultural part, I think there's a great entertainment factor that I know from our town because being involved with the parade all the years ago at Channel 7, we were deeply involved, how important it was to our town and to exploit it. And we did it at Channel 7. And it was so much entertainment value for the public. The parade, the floats were terrific.
Right, and we're hoping to continue. We do continue that tradition. So this year we'll have the same celebration. It's, we, of course, try to make it different and new each year on Constitution Avenue. But it's now expanded from just a few days to 4 weeks. So we have key
You did that.
4 anchoring weekends.
It used to be a long weekend and a dance, and they had the queens from all the states would nominate the float or something for the Cherry Blossom Parade, and we'd have a party and a dance, and we had big names. Ernest Borgnine, when he was one of the biggest names in showbiz, he was married to Ethel Merman, the great entertainer, and they would be part of the Cherry Blossom Festival. And I recall going to dances and parties, and it was more than just a parade.
And I'd love to interview you all about how did you bring those celebrities and how, because I looked through some of the history. We have the library of all the old programs and all of the famous, Roy Rogers I saw there the other day. Roy Rogers, the presidents were involved.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So the First Lady is traditionally the honorary chair,
Right.
which we have continued that. But it would be really fun to go back and talk to you about the celebrity interest. And
There used to be a great morgue of pictures of celebrations at the Washington Evening Star newspaper company. And that was the owner of Channel 7 of WMAL Radio. So we were all involved, and it was important because it was our town, and the Star was an our town newspaper. At one time, the Post was not dominant. The Star was. But Star got killed by television because the afternoon papers suffered. They couldn't deliver the paper. That's a true story. They lost circulation because it was so tough to get papers out and traffic. You don't have problems with traffic, do you, Diane?
we like to try to tell people all the different ways they can get around now. The circulator goes around Tidal Basin.
You've got
so
great
that's easy.
vibes.
Metro, again, Metro has stopped most of its safe tracking. There's only one section that they're working on now, but we also have an app with Park Mobile that you can actually park and reserve to park in advance. So we try to make it as easy as possible for people.
You got shuttle buses?
But
walk
25, walk down.
25, 26, 27 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, Janice and I started to go to the Cherry Blossom Festival. We would walk every morning starting at 5:30 or 6 a.m. And we'd walk the circle around the tidal basin. And we just made that as a part of our growing up together at WMAL. And it was so great. The crowd, we beat the crowd. In fact, one year they had searchlights up and we walked at night. And they had the searchlights. Did they still do that at the festival?
No, I don't think that they put the lights out so much at night. I think they have floodlights down there, but we don't encourage too many people to go there after dark.
Every time we were there, and almost every parade we go by, we see Diana doing a stand-up with a television station that early in the morning, correct?
Yes, absolutely. That's the best time we do the morning interviews, but also a lot of the presidents and their families came down early in the morning like that to enjoy.
Is that right? Oh, I'm so
Mrs.
glad.
Bush
And
loved to do that in the morning.
It's great for our town. And the Cherry Blossom Festival is our town. And this is Andy Ockershausen, and this is our town. I'm talking to Diana Mayhew, and I'll be right back.
Are you still promising yourself or your spouse to get your will updated and a good basic estate plan in place? Are you finally ready to make sure you don't leave a mess behind for your family to clean up? Give me just 2 hours and I'll show you how. I'm attorney Mike Collins, host of radio's Legally Speaking show. Come to my seminar and I'll teach you what you need to know about wills, trusts, taxes, probate, how to keep your money in your family. Register now at MikeCollins.com and I'll even waive the tuition. That's MikeCollins.com.
Hi, Tony Sybil here to tell you about Tony and Joe's and Nick's Riverside Grill at Washington Harbor in Georgetown. Spectacular new restaurants. We've spent a lot of time rebuilding. You'll love it. It's really fantastic. For any information, you can go online to TonyandJoes.com. It'll be a wonderful experience for the whole family. Call 202-944-4545 to make reservations. Everything is fabulous. You got to come down and have some wonderful food.
You're listening to Our Town with Andy Ockershausen. Brought to you by Best Bark Communications.
This is Andy Ockershausen, Our Town. I'm talking with Diana Mayhew, who runs the Cherry Blossom Festival. That is #1 festival in the city of Washington, if not the #1 in the whole country, because other cities have tried to copy us, but they can't get away with it because we got Diana Mayhew.
And a lot of other great people in this city that promote it and love it.
Well, it makes our town come alive, and you couldn't do it without volunteers. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely
No way
not.
to run it.
No, it's so dependent on volunteers, people that put hours and hours and hours, not just during the festival, but all throughout the year. 2017 is actually the 90th anniversary of the first festival.
Wow.
So if you could only imagine, who would have thought that a gift 105 years ago of these trees would now be the nation's greatest springtime celebration and bring so much joy and precious moments and memories to so many people.
When did the Board of Trade get involved? With the Convention Bureau or the Visitors Bureau? I remember that 50 years ago.
Right, as I was going to say, I think it was 60s.
They got involved?
I think so. And it was at that time, wasn't the Board of Trade and the Convention
There was a
one
bureau
group,
of the Board of Trade,
was
right.
one organization.
Clarence Arata.
Exactly, Clarence Arata. We know Clarence from Diplomats,
We grew up with Clarence.
too. From the
And I
Diplomat
recall
soccer.
they went down, they took a group down to New Orleans to study the the parade of Mardi Gras parade to see what goes on and so forth. And they didn't want all the drinking and everything, but they liked what they found out. And that's why they got Channel 7 involved, as we were talking about the talent that we were able to bring in. But it was good for our town. It was good for Channel 7. It was good for the Star, our owner, and the owner of WMAL TV.
And Barry Kearns, actually, from New Orleans, did the National Park Service float in the parade. They did a great favor for the Park Service 100-year anniversary because, of course, we couldn't have any of this without the National Park Service.
They make the town go.
They take care of those trees.
I had so many friends in the Park Service, and the names that go, they're floating through my brain now. The leaders of the local Park Service was so important to our town and everything they did. One of the things I noticed, and I'm so proud of it, Diana, and it's your festival and everything else goes on, the Park Service keeps this town clean.
Absolutely.
They keep our town. I've seen parties downtown, and afterwards, you could see the Park Service out there cleaning up.
Absolutely. And now we have all the bids. Now we have all the bids in the city. Started with the downtown bid like 20 years ago. That helps as well. So it makes this town, our town, a very wonderful place to be.
Oh, the bids have been fabulous, and you've been fabulous. Well, what do you look for the future? Just more and merrier for the festival?
We're taking a strategic look. Obviously, this festival needs to be sustained into the future. So we're hoping that people, first of all, are working with the National Trust to help support the trees, number one. But for the festival, it takes a village. It takes our staff, the individuals that volunteer. It takes all the sponsors in the city to participate. But it's 90 years, so we have to keep it fresh and new. Every year, it has to be creative. We want the residents to continue to enjoy. We don't want them to go and hide and say, oh, let's wait till all the traffic goes away. What kind of special events can we attract to the local community? And the great thing is that the festival's job is to take the celebration beyond the blossoms and beyond the tidal basin, throughout the city and throughout all the neighborhoods.
And you've done that.
Yes.
You really have. In spite of the traffic problems that are not yours, traffic is created by people, not by cars. You understand that, don't you?
Yes.
If you didn't have a car, you wouldn't have a traffic problem. But Diana, you've done so well, and I'm so proud of our town and so proud to be associated with you and all that happened with the Board of Trade that I grew up with the convention thing, and I know what it is. And to see what you've exploited it, and I'm so important for what you've done.
Well, thank you. But again, I have to say, it's everyone in the city that loves this festival, that supports it. It's such a joint job, and it's really a labor of love of our team.
Well, I'm sure for at least a month you don't sleep, but you still look good. You still look great in pink, and we appreciate you very much, Di, and we will look forward to the future of many, many festivals, and I hope you're in charge forever.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you very much. And it's so much an honor to be part of our town.
Thank you.
Celebrity
You're a
light
big part of our town, Di. And this is Andy Ockershausen. This is our town, and we appreciate you very much, and we appreciate the National Cherry Blossom Festival.
You've been listening to Our Town, Season 2, presented by Geico, our hometown favorite, with your host, Andy Ockershausen. New Our Town episodes are released each Tuesday and Thursday. Drop us a line with your comments or suggestions. See us on Facebook or visit our website at ourtowndc.com. Our special thanks to Ken Hunter, our technical director, and WMAL Radio in Washington, D.C. for hosting our podcast. And thanks to Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance.